Hi, welcome on this very auspicious day, auspicious week, Navratri in India, tomorrow Dasera, and we are excited to have Anil with me. Anil, who is so approachable, has made himself available today. I know it was very difficult for him to take out time. I knew from his office, but he managed to take out time for us so that all of us can hear from him. Friends, today on this auspicious day, on the auspicious eve of Dasera, let's discuss the agri technology perspective and what will be the right approach to strengthen the tech in agri ecosystem. How agri startups are innovating solutions to benefit the agriculture ecosystem engagement to integrate and enhance the agri capabilities. Anil will discuss what kinds of startups have been funded and approach taken to strengthen the value chain. Friends, welcome to this discussion today on Fintech towards transforming Indian agriculture and how Fintech and Agtech solutions are supporting small and marginal farmers. I'm honored to introduce Anil. Anil, first of all, congratulations on getting ET award. And it was not easy, especially when I read, if I may use, whom you were competing with. It was really surprising, and it was really, really good that, such a wonderful job you're doing in the social sector. And my wishes to you, next step is, of course, besides getting a lot of Indian recognitions from Padma Awards to Maksase Award, not very far for you, I'm very sure. So Anil, to introduce you, Anil is the founder and CEO of Samunnati Financial Intermediation and Services Private Limited, popularly known as Samunnati. Anil established Samunnati in 2014, just about 6 years ago. Samunnati offers financial, co-financial, and non-financial solutions to marginal, small, and medium farmers, agri enterprises, wholesalers, and retailers. Samunnati stands for collective growth, collective prosperity, and collective elevation, focusing exclusively in agri-allied activities. It has its presence in more than 54 value chains spread over 19 states. Samunnati has over 500 farmer producer organizations and 300 agri enterprises through which it collectively serves about 4 million smallholder farmers across India. Anil, as far as profession is concerned, is a career banker with over 28 years of experience in the areas of rural, retail, and agri-banking. He started his career with Canara Bank, moved to ICICI Bank, and Anil was also the co-founder and trustee of IFMR Trust and the CEO of IFMR Rural Channels. Over the last decade, Anil has dedicated and focused on creating newer institutions across the country and operating in the financially excluded markets with corresponding support structure for the capacity building. Anil holds a master's in management from Asian Institute of Management, Manila, and he also holds a master's in business administration from Symbiosis Institute of Management, Pune, and of course has a graduate degree in humanities from Usman University, Hyderabad. So Anil, I'm honored to host you. Welcome to this Ray Talks. Today, about 15 countries have registered to listen to you. And I'm sure that they'll go back with a lot of information, especially from Southeast Asian countries where I'm connected. I said, if you want to understand the small farmers holding about the financial things, please listen to Anil, and they are all here with us. So, Anil, before I take over to ask questions to you, let me also do a mandatory introduction about Ray Consulting. Ray Consulting helps clients in agri value chain which make unique, sustainable, and significant improvements in their business performance to transform into prodigious firm. Ray unlocks insight to execute by challenging established thinking to drive transformation. Ray builds the capabilities that enable organizations to achieve higher potential and sustainable growth. We solve our clients' toughest challenges by providing services in strategy, consulting, digital technology, and operations. We develop outstanding leaders to deliver on commitments. We are proud to have MOUs with ICRISAT, ISP, NIAM Jaipur, and we soon will be working with one of the big fours in strategic and marketing consulting, and also on market research with one of the global banks which focuses on agri funding. And we are soon planning to launch agri management education, which we felt is a kind of a gap in the country, and we are trying to kind of get a lot more details so that when we come, entire agri value chain would be immensely benefited with management education. So Anil, you're welcome. So if you're ready, I'll start with my things. Audience and attendees, welcome to listen to Anil. Right, Anil, all through? Yes. So let me start, Anil, with your love for Samunnati. As an agri supply chain solutions provider, tell me about Samunnati's experience in introducing tech solutions to agri stakeholders, especially the FPOs. Now, you are one of those individuals which imbibed in institution called Samunnati, early bird to see the strength in FPOs. So what made you see that?
Firstly, it's wonderful to be on this talk on this show, Raj.
Thanks.
Always good to hear you. I was also part of the DAIC in Hyderabad, the inaugural edition, if I'm right.
Yes.
Good to see the video on that. And also festive greetings to all the participants who have come on the show. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to share our experience and learnings as Samunnati. So it's my privilege to be here. So let me share my journey as we go along, because Samunnati and agriculture and my journey are best said as a story, as how events unfolded. So we did not start off working with FPOs to begin with, Raj. We started with a traditional approach of having a branch and looking at getting customers in the only value chain at that point in time that we were working with, which is dairy as a value chain. And then when we started understanding the dynamics of dairy as a value chain outside Tamil Nadu is when we realized that outside the peninsula, many of the dairies were more aggregated as societies, Doodh Utpadak Sanghs. And the profile of these structures are very similar. There is a processing unit, there is an aggregation point, and there are farmers who are basically taking care of one or two milch animals in the backyard. So if that is the case, why not we look at moving away from an individual aggregator that the Tamil Nadu market represented at that point in time to an aggregation that is a community-based organization is when we started looking at FPOs as potential vehicles that Samunnati can work in unlocking two capitals that we bank on. The first is the soft information, the knowledge of the customer and the context, which is what we refer to as social capital. And the second one is this social capital is getting created on account of they coming and pouring milk to the aggregator or to their society. And there is a way in which those transactions and that information is captured, which is what is trade capital, the transaction history. In other words, whom to lend was a function of social capital, how much to lend was a function of the transaction history. So if we apply that principle, FPOs seem to be vehicles that can transform the social capital and trade capital at scale, bringing in the non-linearity to the impact of reaching out to smallholder farmers. That's how the FPO journey of Samunnati started after Samunnati's journey started.
Wow. So tell me now, from the technology perspective, so what do you think would be the right approach to strengthen the tech in agri ecosystem? Because you you are one of the institutions which is literally involved in every kind of ecosystem from agriculture.
Right.
In the supply chain, many of the traceability, remote sensing, data integration, they're all playing crucial roles in improving the efficiency. So
Right.
this would offer solutions to both, that is farmers and the FPOs and supply chain partners. So how do you see tech evolve in this ecosystem, Anil?
Right. So there are three dimensions in which we look at technology, Raj. One dimension is technology that enables the farmers to be able to engage in their activity and has a tangible association to increasing their incomes or letting them do the economic activity. That is one cohort of technology. The second technology is the technology that enables entities like farmer producer organizations, which enable them to serve their members who are smallholder farmers, as well as take care of their statutory and secretarial compliances and other services that they are expected to offer as they scale their membership base from a handful of members who are together in good faith to a large number of members who come together because there is a collective benefit. That is the second cohort. The third cohort of technology is which enables providers that include Samunnati and other satellite imagery companies that you mentioned. Many of these providers getting the ability and the risk mitigation that they get through use of technology while serving FPOs as well as the farmers. So these three cohorts are very important. In the first cohort, there is a tangible benefit that a farmer sees and hence adopts technology. Yes. Second, the institution capacity that is required to serve the client base, which the FPOs require, the second level of technology. Third technology is entities that provide services to FPOs and the members, requiring this technology to have access to these two ecosystems, these two sets of customers. So each of these pieces of technology in both the startup ecosystem as well as Agtech ecosystem is significantly important because it defines how each of them can relate to the other players in the space, as well as how do we collaborate as an ecosystem to be able to add value to the end customer, the first cohort, which is the smallholder farmer. That is how I see technology. And this framework is what gives Samunnati a clear direction in terms of engaging with the Agtech players as well as bringing the relevant services to both the FPOs as well as the members.
You see, when we speak, we saw this in Digital Ag India conference also, where all of you came to discuss, and there were two challenges we looked. One is the last mile connectivity, which you covered in the first cohort.
Yes.
The second thing is on the cost of technology. Who should bear it? How should it be bought? I think that is where Samunnati is playing some very critical role through. I mean, if I'm not I know a bit about AMLA. Right. So can you elaborate on that, Anil?
Wonderful. I'm so glad that you remember AMLA, Raj.
Oh yes, very well. And this is the season of AMLA too.
Right. And AMLA is the only fruit that is a complete fruit.
Yes.
It has all the 6 tastes, which makes a meal complete meal. And our endeavor is how do we make the proposition to the farmers complete through an AMLA approach.
Wow.
It's an acronym. It stands for aggregation, set of people coming together to do the same economic activity. Market linkages, because this aggregation is meaningful only when you are able to access markets both on the input side as well as the output side.
Yeah.
And then advisory services, where can you bring in better productivity tools for your activity on the market facing side of the advisory services. The internal facing advisory services are the institution building. Do I have the capacity as an institution to be able to govern and build my processes around serving my clients? So that is what AMLA approach is. Wow. Now the market linkages is where we require customized working capital structures, is where the financing element comes in. In other words, finance is more an enabler than the purpose, a means than an end. And it is finance which is important but not sufficient. Market linkages together with finance is what makes this complete, with both A's taking care of the non-linearity in terms of approach, as well as building the institutional as well as market-led approach in the smallholder farmers through the aggregation points, which are the FPOs. That's what the AMLA approach is. Now, the second part of your question is, the adoption and payment, right? There we have, again, each of the cohorts that I mentioned, the 3 cohorts have a different incentives that need to be aligned to be able to pay for the service. And here I often give an example of the AI, the artificial intelligence at one end of the spectrum to artificial insemination at the other end of the spectrum. Both are AIs,
Yes.
excepting that one AI, which is artificial insemination, is critical for the smallholder farmer having a milch animal to get the revenue flowing from the asset that they have. Because you have artificial insemination, the cow is impregnated, the milching phase starts, you sell the milk, and the income generation happens through a cow. So the causal formula or causal factor of insemination leading to income at the household is very clear. And hence, if you see most of the paravets who do the artificial insemination through the veterinary network that the villages have are considered to be an integral and important part of the social ecosystem of the villages. Not only is the service paid for by the farmer, but the guy who provides this service is taken care of in terms of their daily requirements whenever they come, so that the activity that happens in a efficient manner. The second set of entities that require technology are the farmer producer organizations, and that is where I call that as an investment portion of technology. If I am the person who is interested in reaching out to a large number of farmers, which Samunnati is, how do we reach out if the middle layer, my conduit or the channel partner that Samunnati is working with does not have the capability to be able to reach out to that large number and be able to serve? So you are in a way strengthening the channel from the perspective of making the channel serve more clients, bring in more clients. Right? And that investment needs to happen at an ecosystem level. You may want to ask why Samunnati needs to do it.
Yeah.
And the choice was, very clear for us. When we started operations, even now for that matter, there are only a handful of large and matured farmer producer organizations. You can work with only as many. But if your aspiration is to be only in agriculture and work with a large number of FPOs, somebody has to take the lead in strengthening them, and the alignment of incentives in terms of working only with the FPOs and looking at scale makes investment into the technology for farmer producer organizations a necessity. It is not a good to have approach, but need to have approach, because there is a symbiotic relationship. If Samunnati has to grow, FPOs have to grow. If FPOs have to grow, they need to have the institution capacity to grow. To build the institution capacity, you have to have technology.
Yes.
Now, the third one is external facing, the market facing, wherein there are multiple entities which are looking at getting into agriculture, getting into serving the farmers, but are still skeptical, still apprehensive, still wary about this. Agriculture lending is, still dependent on rain god, the farm loan waivers. We really don't know how these people behave. There are far too many risks that we cannot hedge, so on and so forth. Fortunately, the period that we are living in, the last 5 years and the few more years that we can look at bringing maturity to this technology landscape, we have the capacity to mitigate and address many of these apprehensions and risks. So at an entity level, if you are wearing a financial services hat, what is it that you would want to monitor? You would like to basically monitor whether you have sufficient information about the client. 2, what are the economic activities or the yields that the farmer has had in what they have done so far. 3, what are they going to use this money for, which is being lent to them? In other words, the end-use monitoring. And 4, do I have the ability to access this information on a real-time basis? So you take many of the Agtech companies that are coming in the space, they are basically looking at building one or other capability in these dimensions to either address the risk of lack of monitoring capability or ability to reach out to the client, or mitigate the risk of information that is not available. And the second dimension is from the insurance dimension. When would the insurance companies be interested in structuring a product? When they know that at a click of a button, I can zoom in to the farm of farmer A and see what is happening. And there is a foliage, the crop is growing, and we know that the income is certain, is when they say, oh, okay, there is no possibility of a insurance being claimed on account of moral hazard, so on and so forth. So there is this entire ecosystem of players who want to harness the potential of the agriculture and smallholder farmers, but don't have either the risk appetite or the ability to monitor their client base, which prevented them from offering these services. Now the technology providers are basically bringing in that. And for this cohort of service providers, entities who are interested in distribution and distribution income from these services are the ones who have to pay for technology. Now you see three cohorts of technology, three kinds of customer base. First cohort, income and intervention aligned in terms of incentives, and hence farmer will be ready to pay. I'm not saying they need to pay, they will be ready to pay because they know that by paying they get additional income. The second one is a necessity if you have to grow. In other words, it is a business investment that entities like Samunnati or entities which are interested in reaching out to farmers will have to make to grow for their own growth, for their own benefit, for their own business. The third dimension is how do we bring in newer services and newer players to harness the potential of the smallholder farmers and agriculture by creating either visibility or mitigation of a perceived risk. There, the distribution income should offset the payment for the service, where the distributors will have to pay, not the farmers. So it depends on who is getting benefited from the service directly and pay for that service.
See, this is something very interesting. I mean, I'm recollecting one Sanskrit sloka, Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. So you're just not looking at lending the money to, typically like a money lender जैसा नहीं है कि हमने loan दे दिया चलो देखा जाएगा kind of a thing. You are working towards the prosperity of the farmer or to whom you are lending, and you are also kind of giving confidence the person from whom you are kind of getting the money or the insurer and all. कि भाई हाँ, farmer is here to grow, and he grows, we all grow kind of a thing. Something like we write in an offer letter to our employee or colleagues, welcome on board and let us grow together kind of a thing. So it's on those lines. Great. And then I'm tempted to speak about my background. When I say background, I come from Agri Inputs background. You use two AI, artificial intelligence and artificial insemination. I grew up all my 30 years of career. We used AI extensively for Agri Inputs, active ingredient. All pesticides have got active ingredients, all fertilizers have got active ingredients. You should have that grade, only then the government approves, and that is where the quality parameters coming. So AI somehow I think has got a huge connection with agriculture some way. AI for the animal husbandry, AI for agriculture, and AI combining these two things. Great. And now see, moving on to your love towards startup. You have now come in a startup where you launched the Agri Startup Engagement Platform to integrate and enhance capabilities of Agtech startups that are innovating solutions to benefit the agriculture ecosystem. Can I know what kind of startups have you funded or you want to fund, and the approach taken by Samunnati is to strengthen this value chain? Because I mentor quite a few startups. We are happy that some of them are doing extremely well, and they wanted to know कि भाई पता कीजिए अनिल साहब से कि हम लोग के लिए क्या हो सकता है.
Right. No, we started working with startups way back in 2016, I would say. So in a way, blind leading a blind is how it all started. We being a startup and we working with startups. The entire Samunnati team has a huge bias for execution, Raj. We would like to execute and see how things move, and how do we move forward in providing solutions that are so critical for the end user, who is the farmer. For our entire intervention, the focus is farmer, and how do we provide more and more services to the farmers. There, whichever entity that enables us together, because the startup as well as Samunnati, to be able to provide a meaningful additional service is welcome. It does not matter whether the entity is an established entity or a startup, number one. Number two, startups were more amenable to experimentation, more amenable to trying out new things, and we being a startup ourselves, औकात होना चाहिए साथ में काम करने के लिए. So we thought when two youngsters come together is when the partnership will be more meaningful, is how we started off working with startups. What we also realized is it is the startups who are also in the similar phase as we are, because most of the large scale entities were also asking Samunnati for 3 years profitability, 5 years track record, so on and so forth, to be able to either work or to lend to us. It was the same story with startups as well. They had confirmed orders from large entities, but then the funding was becoming a problem for them because they did not have the track record and profitability to be able to lend. But Samunnati looked at the transaction and say, hey, if the startup is supplying to, as an example, a large organized retail player, and the supply has already been made, how would vintage matter? It is looking into a rear view mirror and taking a decision now. They were supposed to supply, say, maize, and maize has been supplied to a large food or animal feed manufacturing entity, and they are saying, I will pay you after 45 days. We are taking a call on an entity that has already received the material, and startup has no role anymore. Is how we started looking at providing working capital solutions for the startups. And when we started thinking about Samaarambh, the online platform that you mentioned, which was launched on 15th of August, prior to that, we realized that we have worked with about 35 startups and given a collective financial intermediation as well as market linkages to the extent of 100 crores. We did not realize till then. We were doing our job of working with startups. So why don't we make it much more formal in 3 dimensions again, right? This 3 keeps coming to us at regular intervals, very coincidentally. Okay, first dimension is, do they require for themselves, startups, do they require a working capital structure? Because the equity ecosystem is pretty active, pretty enabling, and there are multiple ways in which a startup can get equity. It could be friends and families, it could be the angels, it could be early stage investors. Equity is relatively easier. It is the working capital and debt where most of the startups find it difficult, more so when their focus needs to be on executing their work on the ground without any distraction, rather than finding resources. So providing them customized financial solutions on the debt side is one service that we thought would be an important engagement that Samunnati can have. The second dimension is, most of these startups would also want to reach out to their potential client segments, whether it is FPO or a farmer. They may come and say, sir, is it possible to reach out to a few of the FPOs to deploy our product so that there is a proof of concept or there is a validation of the efficacy of what they are claiming their solution to be bringing about. So they need, I'm sure, test cases to be able to tell their other potential stakeholders that, we have done in this part of the country with that FPO, with 10 FPOs, and anytime you want to go and see, we have a field visit that we can arrange for you immediately. The second dimension, access to potential clients. Third is, if the service is too good and the potential clients indeed are interested in availing that service but don't have the ability to access those services, can Samunnati play a role either in providing financial services to the service receiver to be able to pay to the service provider for that service, or can we also bring in a kind of a bundling of service? If it is insurance, perhaps we may bundle within the cost that we are charging for all the services. Or if it is a monitoring tool that we have, a satellite monitoring, then rather than asking the farmer to pay, perhaps Samunnati picks up the cost to be able to do that, because by doing so, we may either get cheaper funding or we may get newer lines of funding. So, so on and so forth. The idea is Samaarambh to be able to provide a combination of all these 3 services and work with startups in an ecosystem mode, more like a collaborative ecosystem. Last but not the least, Raj, we both are from agriculture sector, humongous potential, and there is so much to do. Even I would say 100 Sammunnatis is still a rounding of error for this country. So, the only way to work is work together.
I think that's exactly what you mentioned, when you were announced about the ET awards. Hopefully this would pave the way for many more Sammunnatis. That's the thing. Yeah. With this, Anil, since I mentioned about things, like for the benefit of audience, I would like to show the from the pages of Economic Times, as you can see. Friends, Samunnati, thanks to awesome leadership of Anil, is awarded the startup award. And getting an ET award is not an easy thing. And as I mentioned earlier, there were many competitors to get this, and some of them were the darlings of the investors in IT industry in the country. It says Samunnati was overwhelming choice of the jury in the social enterprise category for the sheer scale and complexity of the challenges that the non-banking finance company is attempting to tackle in agricultural finance through its distinctive market linkage model. The Fintech lender, which operates, which I mentioned to you, imagine they have disbursed a whopping 4,200 crore loans. That's an amazing amount, Anil, and I know it's an Herculean task. And the challenge, though it's a humongous opportunity for agriculture, but not without challenges. So much unpredictability in this sector, but managing that is a huge challenge. So I would like to move from, we have discussed so well, so passionate you are about, Samunnati, let me put it, or the sector where you are in. So that's exactly my question to you, Anil, is that what attracted you to this field? You started your career with a public sector bank, moved on to a private sector bank, doing extremely well at your own leadership level. Again, इंडिया में बोलते हैं भाई इतना कुशली सब कुछ छोड़ के क्यों आया इधर करके? What made you come to this field?
Well, the answer can be two. One, a very insightful answer, which might not be the reality. The reality is, it's destiny. It's just destiny. My banking itself was an accident. I was doing my engineering in mechanical space in Tumkur, Siddhaganga Institute of Technology. And during my +2 holidays is when I had taken my banking services recruitment board exam more out of curiosity, because my sisters who are elder to me were constantly writing those competitive exams. So I thought, let's see what this exam is, because I had just got eligibility after crossing 18 years of my age. Is when I took the exam, forgot about it, went to Tumkur, was doing my engineering, and after 6 months I get a telegram. I'm talking of 91. Yeah. We still had telegrams then, not long ago, saying that I have cleared the exam and that there is an interview. And people mentioned, why don't you just go to the interview and see? It's a bank job. It's aspirational. So I went to the interview, came back, and then after 2 months, another telegram came saying, hey, you have been allotted to Canara Bank. And people said, you do engineering to get a job. Now you have got a job. Why do you need to do engineering? And of course, on the economic front, it was a necessity that I also get into a job if I had an option. My family was supporting my engineering, but I was consuming 50% of my family income. Here was an opportunity where I could save 50% of family income as well as contribute to my family, is when the choice was apparent. It was not a difficult decision to make. So I quit engineering and joined Canara Bank. And as luck had it, my first posting was a rural branch. So my baptism into banking happened in agriculture lending. Oh. And it's a small village with about 800 households. And 3.5 years of my banking journey, the first 3.5 years was in a rural branch. And there I got a beautiful sense of the rural banking, the rural landscape, and the agriculture schemes, as well as the government interventions in terms of how the schemes are designed beautifully and how they are executed, and the plethora of the dynamics of these three constituents. 3.5 years there is when I moved on to the circle office with an aspiration to explore civil services. Is what Hyderabad is why Hyderabad became a destination. Enrolled myself in a civil service coaching academy, and then 10 to 5 was the job, 6 to 10 was the coaching, 10 to 3 a.m. was the preparation, and then 10 to 5 was the job. That happened for about 1.5 years. Is when ICICI Bank happened. I cleared many competitive exams, RBI grade A, SBI POs, Bank of India POs, but then ICICI Bank happened. And after that, it went into a bit of corporate banking for about, 5-6 years. But then again, the destiny, played its role. When Bank of Madura merger happened into ICICI Bank, I was posted as branch manager of Guntur from Jubilee Hills, Hyderabad. And that's when I got exposed to chili, tobacco, turmeric value chains. Excellent. I had no clue of what destiny is in store for me, because in the first posting of my job, I was exposed to the production side of agriculture, which is farmers. In my Guntur stint, I was exposed to the demand side of the value chain, which is the agri processing. And then I took sabbatical, went to Manila to do my master's with an intention to get into academics and leave the corporate world. Oh. I said, yeah, this is a rat race. No point. Let me just go and do teaching. Is when I stumbled upon Banker to the Poor of Dr. Muhammad Yunus and resonated with my own economic background and how I can use my experience to do something meaningful. And I wrote to ICICI Bank because I was employed and was on sabbatical, requesting if I can join the rural microbanking and agribusiness group of ICICI Bank. So when I came back to India in 2005, I was given an opportunity to work in that group and set up a new team called Microfinance Institution Development Team. So it was a development team within a commercial group with a mandate to work with entities that provide services to excluded markets across the country. So in the 2 years that team existed, we had about 240 partners, including a dozen of them in Northeast. And then 2007, I was deputed by the bank to set up IFMR Trust based on what I have done in IFMR rural channels. So if you combine all of this, there is a lot that destiny has played a role wherein, I have not done agriculture in this incarnation, if I can say so. Maybe it is some previous life that has driven my interest in agriculture, but I have been fascinated by agriculture all through. And working with wonderful people who have mentored me over a period, especially in ICICI Bank, I owe a lot to that wonderful institution. Several opportunities is how the IFMR experience gave me a good understanding of what agriculture is. So when I thought I would set up my own entrepreneurial journey, agriculture was a natural choice, because in my previous employment, we were having an in-depth understanding of the household in terms of income, assets, liabilities, as well as expenditure. But the household is not operating in vacuum. The household is operating in an ecosystem, and that ecosystem was dependent on 2 or 3 major economic value chains. It could be maize, it could be, paddy, it could be coconut, it could be aqua. If you take any geography for that matter in India, 2 or 3 major economic activities determine the profile of the space. And anything happening in that economic activity will have an impact on the households. Whether they are directly employed in that activity or not is what led to Samunnati as a value chain proposition. That's where Samunnati's idea germinated. And we started building on it. I took a loan on my house in Hyderabad, and my PF money from IFMR is how Samunnati took birth. But then my very first investor said, if you can do only agriculture and nothing else, I would be able to back you. Wow. I said, this is like icing on cake. Here I am looking at, can someone help me do only agriculture? There the investor is saying, if you do only agriculture, I will back you. I said, that's the best part of how things can be, and that's how agriculture happened. I can go on, but I will pause here.
I think it's all about intentions you're talking about. Your intentions were jo bolte hain, noble hai, neck hai, that paved the way. But something exciting here is that we all see, being from Agri Input, I mentioned 3 decades from the industry. Generally, we see finance as one capsule, agriculture as another, and technology the board dur tak hai. So now something you integrated all of them and then bringing everybody on the same platform. Awesome. See, yeah, I think you spoke about how this significant milestones you've achieved. Now, see, it's not easy to move from corporate to start your own entity and build it in such a short time, both in terms of capabilities, when I say infrastructure of people, IT, and the fund management. You've got humongous amount of fund which you're managing. Now, tell me, what are your if I may take, what are your personal qualities or leadership qualities that is making you do this, Anil?
That's difficult.
Maybe I need to talk to your team about this.
I've never got this question, but let me try. I think I love doing new things, and my life has always been around decisions which are unusual. First and foremost, leaving a engineering education and joining an employment, which of course was a necessity. It was not too much of an option, but leaving a government job for someone who comes from a lower economic background and joining a private sector bank, because there is an opportunity to grow if you demonstrate capability. That's what led me to get into ICICI Bank. And then leaving a career in ICICI Bank and going for studies, because I never went to a college, with an intention to leave the corporate world and get into education as an academician, because I could, I love talking, is why I thought I will become a lecturer. That's about it all. Then coming back to the inclusive finance, it's the execution bias. Two, I have been fortunate to get mentored by some of the finest human beings all through my life, whether it is my NCC instructor in my school, or my first branch manager in Canara Bank, who taught me all facets of banking, like his own son. He mentored me. And then, of course, I told you about ICICI Bank, the wonderful learning ground and the empowerment that youngsters like me had in ICICI Bank. I'm talking of the period from 96 till 2005, 2006, when the bank was growing, and we had the privilege of working with some of the finest human beings. All that sure would have rubbed off in terms of how do we collaborate, how do we build that social capital. Maybe building social capital could be one area, Raj, if I may think. The goodwill among people who supported the journey of Samunnati during its initial days. Number two, there is a huge execution bias. I jump and then realize, oh, I have jumped. Now that I have jumped, let me figure out what it is. There is a huge execution bias. Again, the gene pool of perhaps ICICI Bank, because ability to do is more valued than a wonderful strategy on the PowerPoint presentation. We will learn if we do things. I would also say lifestyle remains to be a lower middle class lifestyle. 20,000 rupees a month is still what we spend. And I also would express my gratitude to my family, because they supported me in saying, we will figure out, don't worry about it. If this is what you would like to pursue it, not an issue. Last but not the least, I would say the team that came together to work with Samunnati and put their trust in the vision that we have, because that is what binds us. How do we make markets work for smallholder farmers is the expression of our mission. But the underlying principle there is, can we do something meaningful to fellow human beings? That's the underlying thing. While the manifestation of it is farmers, can we do something meaningful, not for ourselves, but someone else? And at Samunnati today, we have 600 years of banking experience in the senior management. People who took 70% pay cut, 80% pay cut, and the salary negotiation at that point in time for the initial set of team is sit together and say, what are all the liabilities that I have in terms of the EMIs that I need to pay, plus the delta to run my family. Can you give me this compensation to begin with? 75%, 80% pay cut. I have no words to express my gratitude to people who believe that here is an opportunity to do something meaningful. And that is what inspires us even now. Samunnati is an institution. It has 3 independent directors. Chairman has always been an independent director. What we are building is an institution, and it is never a promoter-led entity. It is people who have come together for a common purpose. That's how it is. And I would pray that all of us continue to be grounded, continue to be humble, to do something meaningful with an attitude of gratefulness for the opportunity.
That's awesome. See, I interacted with a couple of your colleagues, to name Soumya and Nikhil, and they carry the same passion what you have, and they are probably passing on. And you know, Arindam from Bravo is a great fan of yours. I mean, the way you work and stuff like that. Now, coming, since you mentioned about family, I'm tempted to ask you two questions. Now, I think I moved from your professional to little personal. I hope you don't mind. See, where do you come from? And what's your family background, if you may share?
Well, I belong to South India, I would say. I belong to India because there is no one place that I come
yes,
from.
we all of them are, yeah.
We come from the Rayalaseema belt, which is Andhra, Karnataka. So all my father side relatives are Kannada speaking people, and all my mother side are Telugu speaking people. So my mother tongue is Telugu, my father tongue is Kannada. So I became conversant in both the languages. So I can read, write Telugu, Kannada. But then to add complexity to my life, I married a Tamilian who is from Palghat. So it is Tamil and Malayalam there. So in order to survive, I had to learn Tamil. But little did I realize that Tamil will become my professional language because I started working in Tamil Nadu from 2007 onwards. After the IFMR thing, it was all rural Tamil Nadu that I worked, and now most of our operations are also in Tamil Nadu. So Chennai has been home since 2007. Children speak Tamil at home because their mother tongue is Tamil. My mother is with me, so Telugu is still happening. So it's all over the place. There is no one particular.
Anil, you know, I could manage to retrieve one photograph which I was searching since morning, so I could get it. I don't know if you saw this picture. Last 50 minutes, 55 minutes, I'm talking to you. And let audience also know this picture. If Anil, as you just mentioned, you know, your life still remains the same. I'll show this picture for the benefit of audience. I probably, for you also, it's the first time. This is one of your pictures taken during our Digital Ag India conference, and this is the most liked picture to whomever I show. Not that you're on my show, I'm trying to kind of speak to you. I know, like there's a saying, Manasa, Vacha, Karma. So it captures the entire thing. So Anil, now I'll take you to another thing. How do you foresee the risks and solve the problems?
Right. So the philosophy of risk is important to understand how to solve it is what I have learned in my 30 years of banking experience, Raj. The moment we say, I have to protect myself from my customer, then it is a win-lose proposition. If the philosophy of the risk is, can I understand the risks that are associated with the activity that my customer is engaged in, for which I am lending, and can I work together with the client to mitigate that risk, is when the client is, de-risked, and when my client's risk is, mitigated, is when my risk is mitigated in any case. Because 99.99% of the human beings are creditworthy and honest people. The reason why they renege on their commitments is because of not having the ability to honor that commitment. And in any default, if you take, it is either circumstantial, situational, or willful. Willful default, niyat kharab hai, you can't do anything about it and you provide for it. But situational and circumstantial is there is an intention, but there is no ability to pay. When there is no ability to pay, how did that inability to pay come in the first place is the first question that a lender needs to have, an entity like Samunnati needs to have. And if that is something that we should have mitigated in the first place, then we should have mitigated it together. So can we mitigate the risk that my client would have, which will become my risk, is the risk management philosophy that Samunnati has. And that is the reason why we moved from being a lending institution to an entity which says finance is important, but market linkages are more important, because market linkages bring in a lot of risk mitigation to the lending activity that we do. And the moment you bring in market linkages, you are now becoming an internal player in the value chain. You are not an external player. You are now not looking at protecting yourself from the customer, but you are looking at, can we together work with how to make the economic activity happen? And that's what makes Samunnati a partner, an internal player in the value chain, not just a lender. And that's the risk management philosophy that we look at. And most of our lending decisions are customized lending decisions. We don't have a product. We have tenors ranging from 1 day to 5 years. We have quantum ranging from less than $100 to $1.5 million. Less than 5,000 rupees to 15 crores in individual cases. Each of them is customized, looking three things. One, what is the activity? Second, are we underwriting the transaction? Third and most important one is, are we aligning the incentives? Is the customer who is borrowing and taking the service and Samunnati on the same page, on the same side of the table, not on two sides? That's the risk management philosophy. You may falter, you may still look at facing some tough situations, but then when you know that we both are on the same side of the table, we will find a solution. There are some borrowers where they came to us and say, hey, I'm not able to sell, I'm stuck with my cash flows. Can you provide market linkages through Samunnati so that I would be able to honor my commitment of due date to you?
Oh.
Which a lender cannot do.
Yes.
Right. So you need to be a partner. You need to work together, because it is not your problem, my problem. It is our problem. And it is not your prosperity, my prosperity. It is our prosperity.
Inclusive. Great. Now, see, now, of course, you mentioned quite a few things, but you also not mentor, you have as Samaarambh startup as a thing. What would you advise for these young leaders or the startups or any young entrepreneur? When I say young entrepreneur, not necessarily by young at age, like all of us started at a very later stage, just about 6 years back and jumped into this. We are as good as startups. So what is your message for this new startups or new businesses?
So to make a decision to pursue what you believe in, don't do analysis.
It leads to analysis.
You have to follow the heart. This will not help. That's why they say it's a gut feel. And I'm taking entrepreneurial route for me, 5 a.m. in the morning, I woke up my wife and said, I think I would do this. She said, go ahead and do it. You have to just go with the gut feel. You don't know, what could be the outcome, but follow the heart. Don't apply logic. And I have seen several of my friends doing a lot of analysis paralysis and still be on the wall. Cannot take a decision, because unless you don't let go of the bonding that you have as whatever you are doing, you cannot be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship requires freedom in thinking, freedom of thought. Yes. Second, build as many bridges as possible wherever you are. Right? And networking is not an accidental word. Yes. Networking is the bridges that you build, and bridges need not be necessarily with an intention to get a favor. You may just get a well-wisher for you. A silent well-wisher who may not tell anything in front of you, but can mention a couple of good words about you. Always build bridges, always keep relationships intact, because we are human beings for a reason. We love human values, we love human nature. So my life has always been being with wonderful people and sharing wonderful time with them. So keep building bridges. Right? I would say.
That's awesome what you mentioned, build bridges, networks and all. And it happened with me. I think I should share this yesterday. I was talking to you about this, market research collaboration with one of the global banks. It happened, because we know each other last several years, but we never had any commercial intention. Even this project I have is not with commercial intention, but we came together just because we knew each other, trying to see what we can do. And now the time we felt both of us is we can do something. That's an amazing, awesome message. And before I come,
last one, if I may, so the third dimension that I would say is, when you are choosing your business partner, whether it is an investor or a funder, look for the resonance rather than the valuations. You need someone who is part of your journey and travel with you together, than someone who is coming in because there is a transaction, or you impressing upon that person saying there is a huge upside and hence let us do together. Anything that is based on mutual trust and respect usually gives a good outcome in my experience. And anything that is transactional always has the what do you say, the expectations and
Bargaining power would be there in transaction.
one of my mentors said, expect not and thou shall not be disappointed.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yes. Now I'll come to
a lot of this thinking, Raj, if I may say so, a lot of this thinking has been thanks to a system of meditation that I follow. I follow the heartfulness way. This is a system of Raja Yoga, and I accidentally got introduced to this system in 1993 as a 21-year-old boy. And I have been practicing this system for about 27 years now. The ability to be connected to the heart and ability to connect to a fellow human being through heart is something that the heartfulness way emphasizes. And it has nothing to do with the external manifestation. It is a journey about me, myself. And setting aside 20-30 minutes a day early in the morning to meditate and then start my day makes a huge difference to how the rest of my day goes. So I would strongly suggest whoever is watching, go to this website, www.heartfulness.org. Everything is free. Everything virtually is free there. And experience what it is what I would say.
If I'm not wrong, I'm mistaken, I think they had built the world's largest meditation center a couple of months before this pandemic started, right?
Absolutely. You are absolutely right. And it is near the Hyderabad airport.
Yes.
And that is the system that I have been privileged to know of.
Of course, I haven't interacted it directly, but I think even Vadikola follows the same system.
Yes.
Yes, great. Awesome. That's great. Now, before I come to a concluding question, which is, again, I would link with your vision with agriculture. Tell me what you do in leisure time, Anil, if at all you have or you create leisure time.
Well, I'm a family man. I spend a lot of time with my boys. I'm also a volunteer in the Heartfulness Institute. I take sessions for corporates. I also take sessions for villages. Then I'm also, part of the training team for trainers. Read a little bit. What I'm reading now is Complete Works of Swami Vivekananda. I'm reading those, and phenomenal clarity that gentleman had way back 100 years ago.
Amazing.
So inspiring. I don't read fiction. I don't watch movies. I don't see TV. The only thing that I was interested was cricket. That with the way, now that time frames are, even I don't get to watch that as well. But yeah, life has been great. Grateful for everything.
Awesome. I've been enjoying talking to you. Friends, my audience, I know you're all keen to talk to Anil. I'll put my last question to Anil, and then whoever would like to talk to Anil can raise your hands, and we will allow you to speak. Anil, where do you see agriculture in next 10 years? I mean, what's your vision? Where do you think the world of agriculture will move in the next 10 years, especially from India's point of view, agriculture and food?
I would say 10 years is too long a frame, Raj. I would say next 5 years, if there is a sector where people should look out, it's agriculture.
Wow.
And if there are youngsters who can play a role in riding a wave, this is agriculture. This is a time to get into agriculture for 3-4 reasons. One, thanks to pandemic, the policymakers and government have been very proactive in bringing about the changes that are required, which have always been in the important bucket but never moved into urgent bucket. And they have moved into urgent bucket and got implemented. We couldn't have asked for better times in terms of technology to be able to reach out to a large section of people. Internet is available everywhere. People's ability to adapt to these technologies is also brilliant. Whether it is Zoom that has become the lifeline for conferences, or whether it is WhatsApp groups that little groups that get formed in villages that I have seen between farmers. Adoption of technology, if it adds value to the incomes, has been phenomenal. And 3, some of the large countries are indeed looking at India for their food security. And India is the largest producer and consumer of many of the agri commodities, but still does not have a big capability on processing, on exports, on value add. There is so much to do And next 5 years would be phenomenal in terms of opportunities.
Oh,
Phenomenal.
So you don't even want to go for 10 years. 5 years is enough. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Great. I mean, I love to talk more and more, Anil. I think we can talk offline also, but let's allow our attendees and audience to speak to. To begin with, yes, I think Chetan.
Right.
Chetan, would you like to talk to Anil? You were mentioning earlier. Can you unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and speak to Anil? Chetan.
Yes, Mr. Raj, thank you very much for this lovely webinar.
Thank you.
It was a real pleasure to know Mr. Anil. It's not just about Samunnati, but the passion that he brings in himself and as well as the team. Hats off to you people at Samunnati, and I wish all the best to you all for the future.
Thank you. Very much.
My questions are related to
Chetan, can you introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry, I'm Chetan Dedia from JJ Overseas Mumbai. I've spent nearly about 25 years in high-tech farming, doing a lot of things in farming, then exporting flowers across the world, and then bringing a lot of new technology into India and trading them and distributing them everywhere, including plastics and agriculture and greenhouses, net houses, and all that products. So I'm also quite passionate in terms of farming part, and I've always seen that farmers have always faced this problem of getting funds on time. They don't get funds on time, and they don't get the fund at the right price. How do you think that they can access to easy funding in future without the hassles of these collaterals or any other form of problems like maybe insurance or something? What can help the farmers to get easy access to funds?
Chetan, in my view, FPO as a vehicle has a huge potential to make this happen.
Okay.
And if I can just visually explain that to you, imagine a FPO representing about 500 members, collect the demand for their input requirement much before the season, and then that aggregated demand to be supplied to either the agri input manufacturers or the wholesalers for it, get a working capital to be able to buy those inputs, stock their input shop and be ready. And the members getting a electronic wallet with a limit in that, having access only to the required inputs at the required time in a timely manner. And whenever such sale happens in the input shop, the wallet gets debited and the input shop account gets credited.
Okay.
And then a working capital loan for the FPO to be able to procure the harvest soon after or whenever the sale happens. And those who have taken the inputs on credit through the wallet get deducted from whatever that they are to get from their produce, and their wallet is again replenished for the next season. And there is either a primary processing or a first level grading sorting, and then you sell to a larger corporate, right? You see, if this causal thing comes in, it does three things. One, it entails the customization of product to the activity. Two, it will also bring in the necessary inputs that are required in a timely manner. And three, market linkages are embedded in the financing, and hence you are not giving cash for anything, but you are bringing cash into the activity itself. So the price for all these is a function of the margins that they make. Because you are part of the transaction. You cannot charge 10 rupees when the transaction is giving a delta of 5 rupees, right?
Yeah, true.
You can only take 2 rupees if they are getting 10 rupees. So you become party to the transaction per se.
But what about the risk factor?
Risk of only production remains then.
Yep.
Right? The moment you have the market linkage as risk, then you have to take care of the production risk. Production risk, either you look at insurance, or because you are giving inputs in a tranched manner, I'm talking of only the working capital. I'm not talking of the capital expenditure or investment credit that goes into a infrastructure that you create.
Okay.
But for working capital, if the crop failure happens soon after your sowing, you lose the cost of seeds and the preparation. And if you still have time, you can get into another cycle. Okay. The foliage and the vegetative phase is the phase where the risk is the highest, because you have made investments, including weedicides, pesticides, and what have you. Yeah. Because for flowering, you have to do all of that. And when crop fails, that is when you lose most of it, but you have still not borrowed the entire amount for it. During the third phase of harvesting, there is a salvage value. You will get something out of it. So there is some amount coming in. If there is a way in which we can integrate the insurance to these three phases and build premium accordingly, then it would not be expensive. Otherwise, insurance tends to be expensive. And unlike a life insurance or a cattle insurance where it is 1 or 0, the asset is live or asset is dead. In crop, that's not the case. You have a salvage value. How do you establish a salvage value? So we did one experiment with chili growers in Khammam where we said if 50,000, as an example, if 50,000 is the base expectation of the outcome, if 45 is what you have realized, 5,000 is given by the insurance company. If you get 55, keep 55.
Okay.
Thanks, Chetan.
Sorry, sir. Any scope of Samunnati investing in agri input companies?
Sorry, any scope of Samunnati investing in
agri input companies or facilitators for agri inputs?
Absolutely. We work with many input companies.
Okay.
Many of them are startups.
Okay.
So, just go to Samunnati website and look for Samaarambh and just put details. And one of our young boys young team members will get in touch with you soon.
Great. Thanks.
I think Chetan is planning for one.
Smart man. Thank you very much.
Yes, Chetan.
Thank you.
Yeah, done. Thanks, Chetan. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Now, just to share, Anil, you had an awesome launch with eFresh recently on 2nd October. I'm happy because I'm also associated with eFresh for a very long time.
Oh, very nice.
Yes.
Small world.
We kind of consult and mentor them. I'm happy with this thing.
We have launched 17 FDCs today, by the way.
In fact, right, just 15 minutes back, Dr. Srihari called me. He said, not 15 minutes, before the 15 call started, 3:45. He said, Raj, sorry, I can't join because I think this FPOs launch is continuously happening. So he said, if it's available, he may join any moment. I said, don't worry, I'll share you the recording anyway. Now, we'll take another question from Vimal Chaudhary.
And there is another Suraj Kalange also.
Yes, I'll be taking one after the other. Yes.
Vimalji.
Yes, Vimalji. Please introduce and quickly put your question.
Hi, Anilji. Hi, Raj. This is Dr. Bimal Chaudhary. I'm a veterinary doctor from Odisha. My journey actually started like you, actually. I completed my veterinary degree, then did my MBA, then worked in the corporate. After getting frustration, I started my own entrepreneurship in dairy. Then I thought, I have done a lot of things. Then I started, let us do something for the society. And since last 2 years, I had a target to create 100 entrepreneurs on my own. So we have a collaboration of some of my ARD professionals from fishery and veterinary and agriculture. And we started a consultancy like Kisan Success Consultancy. We do support free of charge to all the people of Odisha and West Bengal. So last year we reached 11 entrepreneurs whom we established. This year due to Corona we have established 7. So my target is to reach 100 entrepreneurs in 5 years. So I am really inspired by your story. The thing I am doing, I was thinking I was a little bit mad, but I think I am going in the right way. So I would like to thank Raj for giving this opportunity to meet you. And we look forward for more this type of such persons interaction with you. So Raj, keep it up. Thank you. And we will be in touch with you.
Thanks, Vimal. It's more of, thanks for complimenting both of us, and I'm happy that you're going back with so much confidence. Thanks to Anil. Vimalji, we have just shared a Google form. I know you can just give your feedback, and also it says whom would you like to listen to in next future Ray Talks. Yeah, thanks, Dr. Vimal. Now I'll take Suraj.
Hello, a warm thank you. I really thank you, Ray Consulting, for organizing this and whoever is working backhand. Sir, I am really glad we had a chance to interact with each other. Now, about myself, I'm from Pune. I'm a fresh graduate, and since my childhood, I'm looking forward to to work in agriculture sector. So the same I had the graduation. So my main question is now. I have been talking to small farmers in this all year. I have been visiting villages and understanding the problem they are facing. So what I have understood is farmers are farming because they have land. They are not looking, now all the small farmers I'm talking about, they are not looking it as a business. like what is farming? Now, farming is providing goods to, growing crops and selling it, but they are not looking at it as a business. That's why what I feel is they are not, able to produce more or give their 100% potential. So how we can change such mindset of small farmers?
First and foremost, I'm glad you are interested in farming, and after your education, you would like to do something, in farming. There are two dimensions, Suraj. One is, if the activity is sustenance activity, then the risk-taking ability comes down significantly because you are vulnerable. You don't want to do things differently because the outcome might be debilitating if it does not go in a right direction. So a lot of risk-taking is non-existent in smallholder farmers because that season is critical for them. Two, we can be happy that the farmers are loving to do farming. Let them continue to be doing farming. Can you and me, people who are interested both in their welfare as well as having been bestowed by the Almighty the ability to support institutions, can we bring in the business dimension of farming to the farmers through a collective? Then there is a symbiotic relationship. There is a collaboration that can bring in. They may not want to change, you may not want to change, because if somebody asks me go and do the plowing of land and do farming, I might not be the right person to do that. So diversity is what life is all about. So we can look at letting them do what they are doing and bring in the business dimension of it. Start seeing the advantages of what we are saying. Once we demonstrate, I'm sure they will also start looking at the activity beyond being a sustenance activity to an economic activity. But we need to demonstrate that. We can play that role.
Yeah. Yes. I can even give an example for that. Thank you, doctor. It was really nice. And in my town, I'm from Satara. In my town, someone started planting ginger and turmeric. So all the farmers, started doing that because they could see it. They could see outcomes. Thank you.
Exactly.
Thanks. Thank you so much for this, and all the best. We'll take the last question from Gaurav Tiwari. Gaurav, you can unmute and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, sir. I'm Gaurav from Rajasthan.
Good evening, Gaurav.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you, Raj sir, for to connect to me with you and Anil sir. Actually, I got see the Anil sir last time when I was reading the Economic Times, and I was that Anil sir has got the award in ET. Then again, I Google the Samunnati and read all the details about the Samunnati. Then I come to know, yes, one of the organization which is working in agriculture, working in agriculture sector is quite great. So, sir, my question is that to Anil sir, like, sir, how can we develop the basic infra in agriculture or agri advisory in agriculture sector, sir?
Wonderful question, Gaurav. Wonderful question. One of the new waves that we would be seeing, I would not say we might see, because we would be seeing, is the investment credit in agriculture as well as agri infrastructure at an FPO level in the next 2 to 3 years. Significant traction. You would be able to see the first level of processing happening. You might be able to see the storage facility or primary processing capability at the FPO level, which means a lot of large scale investments getting split into smaller investment, and the miniaturization of the large processing units at the FPO level is something that I'm sure would be the next wave. Number one. Now, number two, we can play that role of not just sending or selling the harvest to the mandi and the nearby platform for sale, but is there a way where the value addition of the produce happens at the aggregation level, which is an FPO level? Because India, as you know, has a large number of smallholder farmers. We cannot make our land holding large, but we can bring together people and bring in the aggregation through a collectivization so that the economies of scale in terms of the land holding becomes through collectivization. Once that happens at the FPO level, we would be able to see a lot of processing capability coming in. We are minuscule in terms of the produce versus processing that we do at the farm gate level.
Okay, sir.
And a lot of traction is going to happen there. Watch out that space.
Okay, sir.
Thanks, Gaurav. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Anil, with that, I mean, I can go on and on. It's a free flow, and dil se aa raha hai aapka. What you're coming is dil se, from the heart, heartfulness. So, thank you. Thanks, audience and attendees. It's awesome journey since April 25th, every Saturday, 4 o'clock. People look forward to the Ray Talks. And this is the only show in the world happening on every Saturday in agricultural value chain. And we've been recognized, accomplished, acknowledged, as you've seen. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter with the Ray Consulting handle. To share next couple of Saturdays Ray Talks. Next Saturday, I have Kesavan, President Agri Sector FICCI and President TMA, that is Tractors Manufacturers Association, talking to me on technology and mechanization, along with Ms. Shomita Biswas, the Joint Secretary in Government of India. She will be joining us too. And then on 7th November, we have Deepak Parikh talking again on technology and dissemination. 14th, incidentally, I want to have a break because it's a Saturday or Diwali, so I don't want people and leaders to be troubled on that day. So 21st, we look forward to hear some again exciting person. So Anil, thank you so much for joining. One quick parting message to all of us.
It's my privilege to be on the show, and thanks to you and the audience for making this interaction meaningful. Yeah, follow your heart and keep the other person's welfare ahead of yours. That's about it all.
Thank you, Anil. Thank you. Thanks for joining, Anil. Yes, and happy Dasara to you and your family and rest of the people. And let's all pray that let this corona be wiped out, and let's be safe, wear masks, wash your hands, and maintain social distancing wherever you are.
Correct.
Thank you. Bye-bye. God bless everybody.